Alright, so I'm technically supposed to be on hiatus, but Bad Thinking Diary has really got me going, and I just needed to make a video about it. So Bad Thinking Diary is a relatively new webtoon that started similar times when I began my hiatus on this channel, and I've been following it every week, and it's been quite a ride. In a span of 18 chapters, I went from, wow, I can't wait for the next chapter, to, wow, I can't believe we're going to have to suffer through another chapter. Bad Thinking Diary has gained a lot of popularity, which can be attributed by its art, the style, the character design, and, of course, the smut. It is hosted on Lensin after all. The story starts off relatively simple, but it hits you with smut right out of the gate to really let you know what sort of webtoon this was going to be. Our main character, Minji, gets a wet dream about her friend since high school, Yuna, and because when you get a wet dream about your friend, you just go and straight up tell them about it the next day, and that is what starts all of this romantic stuff, I suppose. You know, the whole thing that gets the wheel turning for the story. That's basically my summary of it. It's terrible as always. It is still ongoing with 18 chapters currently, so obviously expect my opinion to change once we get ourselves out of this mud that we found ourselves stuck in. But here's my spoiler-free impression of it. It started off strong, as I said. It started out with smut to really let you know what's going to happen. So obviously that's going to grip a lot of people's attention. Smut and sexual tension can carry your story through as you drag your character through the mud. Sort of like putting a band-aid on a cut. But with Bad Thinking Diary, we're sort of at this point where the wound is a little bit too big for a regular old band-aid. Despite my current feeling on the series, when we got to the good part, Bad Thinking Diary really frickin' hits, because there are a lot of chapters when we are actually able to see the connection between Minji and Yuna and feeling excitement for what is the story was going to unfold. Those chapters, those first few chapters, they were really good, and I really like it. I have actually reread it quite a few times. I was going to say I have a bit of a major disappointment. I think that's a bit contradictory, but I do have a major disappointment on one of the characters, and I will talk about it a little bit more once we get into the spoiler arena. And speaking of the spoiler arena, that is where we are going to head. But if you enjoy these sort of Yuri discussion videos, remember I am still on hiatus, but I am very active on my Discord, where I post a lot of Yuri mangas and recommendations, and I like to discuss Yuri a lot, which also involves Bad Thinking Diary. Check my Discord in the description down below, along with my anime reaction channel if you are interested in some non-Yuri content. Alright, first thing I gotta say, the major disappointment is, unfortunately, Hye-Ra. You know, when we first started out, I was a Hye-Ra stan, and I very much enjoyed being a Hye-Ra stan because I don't often stan characters, and for the most part I kind of did the whole standing Hye-Ra thing half jokingly, but I did genuinely enjoy her character until, you know, further developments. Hye-Ra starts off as this foxy character who may or may not have something up her sleeves. She was also a nosy sort of character, as she was just poking her nose into Minji and Yuna's business. But as you know, she is the shit stirrer that is stirring the pot for the entire turmoil that we're going through at the current moment. The big disappointment with Hye-Ra was when she finally took off her mask, and behind that mask was just a girl who just wants power and wants to be in control, which unfortunately, is a character that you see a lot in specifically Korean webtoons. I personally feel like these power-hungry, controlling characters have been overdone for these sort of stories, but also it might just be because I don't really enjoy their characters as much. I would have preferred for Hye-Ra to continue to have that personality that she had in the beginning of the series, instead of where we are now, where she's just being a fucking mastermind and sending her fucking goons out to mess with Minji and Yuna's relationship. You know, it's... where are we at right now? But despite Hye-Ra being the one who stirs the pot in this situation, I unfortunately can't really blame her that much, but also that might just be my bias as a Hye-Ra stan. Look, I gotta tell you the truth whenever I feel like I'm being biased on something. Anyways, even if Hye-Ra stops stirring the pot and she reels her goonie back, I believe that Yuna and Minji can continue stirring it on their freaking own. And that goes to the, well, what I feel is a big issue when it comes to romance story, and that is the inability to communicate. It is one of the most frustrating things when it comes to romance and drama, specifically a romance drama. When we got two characters who are in a fight or just in bad situations and they can't communicate with each other, I usually say, alright, I'll give them a few chapters to see how this plays out, because I hope that in the end, with them being unable to communicate and actually finally be able to talk to each other about their feelings, you would hope that they learn that lesson. Well, with Bad Thinking Diary, we're currently not at the... We're currently not at that level where they're actually going to communicate. Well, in chapter 18, Minji was actually trying to get Yuna to say what she really means, but Yuna continues to be this... what is it? She'd rather self-sabotage herself, or she'd rather self-destruct instead of actually saying her feelings, you know? Like, she had that chance right there to actually finally say, hey, maybe I may or may not have fucking feelings for you. What do you think I fucking slept with? Anyways, maybe this is just me being optimistic, but I do feel like we're reaching the climax of this first issue. You know, like, Minji... actually, now that I think about it, I'm starting to get pessimistic. See, my optimistic side was like, maybe now that Minji actually was able to be like, hey, yo dog, fucking tell me, but then Yuna runs away, maybe Minji would double down on it and actually get Yuna to say it. But then my pessimistic side came back and it was like, yo dog, what if Minji also gets sad and now they continue their little separate distance? Meanwhile, wait, no, I just realized my pessimistic side was correct, because Yuna saw the text from Hye-Ra's goon, who I still can't remember her name, the red-haired girl, but she was talking about like the whole interview thing, and you know, she's trying to seduce Yuna for Hye-Ra's sake. Oh man, I should have listened to my pessimistic side first, because Yuna's most likely going to... Well, actually, hold on, my optimistic side is coming back. What if she does that whole interview, and then Minji hears about it, and she doubled down? Okay, now that I'm saying it, it just sounds like it won't happen. It just feels like no. You know what this feels like? It's going to be Minji going back to that guy again, who just reminds her of Yuna, and that's really one of the reasons why she keeps fucking sticking around with him, because she feels lonely that Yuna isn't around, so she's sort of using him as the double, but she also feels guilty knowing that when she's with him, all she's thinking about is Yuna. That poor boy, man. He's over here thinking that he got a catch. You know, you think him say that he got a good fucking fish? No, you're wasting your time, my guy. But I hope you will stay nice for the most part, but we'll just have to see. By the way, speaking of that guy, remember when he was first introduced, and then fans of Bad Thinking Diary got really fucking upset because there was a guy in there, and of course they're the purest elitists, and they only want girl characters in their Yuri. They don't want any men in there. The possibility of Minji being bisexual, we can't have that. And speaking of fans being angry, I hope that they're not sending any very mean or death threats towards the artist and the author for what is currently happening. That's, you know, I can't make it stop if it's happening, but I just hope that there isn't. I just want to see how this plays out, but I also hope that we're not going to be stuck with it for the next 20 to 40 freaking chapters, alright? I hope that at the maximum, it'll take 10 more chapters. You know, I don't know if I can suffer through that more, but then again, when I think about it, I went through 8 volumes of suffering for Yuri as my job, so I think I can endure it. I think I can endure the absolute torture. Look, I would do anything for Yuri, alright? Although I don't think my anything is the same as your anything, so... Veering back to the inability to communicate, which often happens in romance story, my interpretation of that is, well, it just feels like it's stalling. You know, it's... If your character are able to communicate with each other and they're able to solve this problem, you have to now start thinking of a new problem. You know, what is this new hurdle that they have to go through? But if they're unable to communicate, well, they're going to be on that first hurdle for a while, but... Okay, this is where I put the whole smut and sexual tension back, right? They could still be, like, trying to get past this first hurdle, but if you have smut and good sexual tension that comes through during this whole fucking hurdle, you could dampen the fall. You could make it not as punchy, you know? Like, you're still getting punched, but somebody has put like 3 layers of pillow over you. My metaphors and similes are just getting worse over the years. But on the occasion where you don't have the smut or good sexual tension, you could make it feel like the characters are about to get over their first hurdle, but then there'll be an additional problem or an additional misunderstanding that takes them all the way back to step 1. And, you know, rinse and repeat and just see how long the reader will stick around. Why think of a new hurdle when you can just keep them at the first? I can't decide whether to talk about Minji first or Yuna, but I think I might talk about Minji because I actually don't have too much to talk about. I feel like she sort of fits the default template of a Yuri main character, and especially when it comes to these sort of settings. She's a girl who has little to no experience when it comes to dating or sex, and because of that, she wholeheartedly trusts her friend Hye-Ra when it comes to dating advice or even advice about sex. And Hye-Ra, being the person who stirs, she recommends that maybe they could start off as sex friends and perhaps just be that until the other person confesses. And if they don't confess, then you stay at where you are, aka sex friends. And Minji, this poor innocent girl, has taken that to heart. Because, oh my god, when she fucking burst out and said something that she shouldn't have said, which is, yeah, that's right, we're sex friends, to Yuna, and, you know, obviously hurting both of them. It, you know, what a poor little innocent girl who has had her innocence taken. Honestly, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, when I really think about it, you know, who was the first person to stir the pot? It was Minji. Like, Minji, again, bless this girl's innocent heart before it was ripped right out of her. she had that wet dream about Yuna, and she didn't really think much of it. So when she goes and talks to Yuna the next day, or well, actually it wasn't that same day, it's not the next day, but she went and talked to Yuna, she just casually talks about it without even realizing that Yuna might have had a crush on her for quite a while. But she was the one who stirs the pot first, before Hye-Ra took the mantle, but now Hye-Ra really doesn't need to do anything. She's just stirring for fun at this point. But Yuna, oh my god, when I said Minji has had her innocence taken from her, I really mean it. She was out here trying to take a nap, and Yuna, who is now stuck with the idea that Minji has had a wet dream about her, decides to go in for a little smooch, and not just not once. She was going in for like a fucking, she was sticking her tongue in there. And I only be like, goddamn girl, you know, maybe if I was in high school, I would have been like, sexual assault, hell yeah. But unfortunately, as I've grown older, the things that I would say hell yeah to as a person who was in high school, I can't agree with it. And since we're at that point, I have to ask this question. What is with Yuna and sexually assaulting Minji? What is going on here? You know what they say, it's not Yuri if it isn't sexual assault. I don't know who Day is or where I've heard it, but oh my god. Before anybody gets riled up, there are also a lot of pure Yuri, and those are also very good. Wow, English. Yuna, as I mentioned before, feels like the sort of character who would self-sabotage, because again, in chapter 18, she's had the chance to finally confess, but that fear, I don't know what this fear is of hers that's keeping her back, made her stop, and she'd rather self-sabotage and fucking destroy this relationship that they have for, what is it, 5 years or so? You know, she's willing to do that instead of actually fighting back against her fear and actually say what she wants to say. And Minji, unfortunately, is still taking Hye-Ra's advice to heart, and she's waiting for Yuna to say it instead, even though, I swear to Christ, we only need one of you guys, alright? We don't need both of you to blurt out that you love each other. We only need one person, and maybe one of these days, Minji will actually talk to somebody else who isn't Hye-Ra, and learn that maybe when you like somebody, you shouldn't start off as sex friends. Despite Hye-Ra saying that's what the kids do now these days. Maybe somebody will tell Minji, or Minji will realize herself that if you like somebody, maybe you should actually be the person who step up and take the chance instead of just playing the fucking waiting game and wait for them. And I'll be honest, if you wait for Yuna, I genuinely don't think that she'll ever... I don't think she'll ever say it. At this point, if we don't end this with Yuna and Hye-Ra fist fighting each other, I'm gonna be really disappointed. And with the whole thing about the smut holding things together, towards the end of chapter 18, even that smut can't control this breakdown that we're going to have within the next few chapters. Well, hopefully at max the next 10 chapters. This whole spoiler arena has just been complaints. How about we talk about good things for once? Well, the first obvious thing is Hye-Ra's introduction. It is just fantastic. I fucking love her. Again, I really love the first few, maybe like the first 10, 11 chapters, somewhere around there. I really enjoy that range, and I feel, personally for me, it's very rereadable, especially when we get to the first sex scene between Minji and Yuna. That is very sensual. I really enjoy that. Unfortunately, chapters 17 and 18 don't capture that energy, but I can understand where they were going with it. So I can understand that energy, but again, it's just, it makes you a little uncomfortable. But it also makes you wonder what happened during that time span for Yuna to just come back to Minji's apartment to Well, at first, sexually assault. If Bad Thinking Diary ends without any BDSM scene, I am going to be sorely disappointed. I mean, we do have Hye-Ra and her goons, which currently is like the closest that we're sort of having to you know, sort of BDSM. What? I just like Yuri and BDSM together, alright? By the way, if you've never read the award-winning webtoon called Post by Ratana Satis, which is also hosted by Lenzen Comics, so you know that there's going to be fucking smut in it. If you haven't read it yet, this is the perfect time. They're actually publishing the webtoon out to the West, and you know, you're actually getting official translation, and also the format of the webtoon ends up, they make it more of a manga sort of format, which makes it a whole lot better, I'll be honest with you. If you're interested, I have it in my Amazon shop, which you can check out down below. It is an affiliate link, but I have all of my Yuri recommendation if you're ever looking on what you should read or you should buy off of Amazon. I'm not sure if I have anything else to say, but if I do, I will write it in the description down below. Thank you guys for sticking around, and I will see you guys when I see you guys.